This is Saturn Girl. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. Comment below because I want to know what you think and it helps me out with the algorithm. Also, do me a favor and click the bell when you subscribe so that you get notified when my new videos drop. And my videos are the best. Well, anyway, Jiminy Jillikers, my darlings. The first month of 2024 is almost over. It's wild, isn't it? Pardon me for not making a video for over a week. I have Mars in my 12th house right now, and I've been such a mess. A hot mess. A hot mess. Well, but anyway, the first month of 2024, like I said, is almost over. January has been very wild, so watch out for February. We're going to talk about the main transits coming up for this month and what they mean. We'll also do your horoscopes in a separate video so that we don't make these things too long, right? So what's cracking for Aquarius season, my darlings? Well, first we have to be aware that Pluto is now in Aquarius. So any planets ingressing into that sign will necessarily form a conjunction with him as they pass over. So, but let's look at the fun chart now, shall we? Here we go. Where did that chart go? Oh, here we go. So number one, on February the 4th, let's go ahead a few days. Here we go. Approaching February. You see Mercury. And boom! On February the 4th, he dips into Aquarius and right away conjoins Pluto, And then February the 7th, right? Venus in Capricorn makes a trine. Here we go. A trine to Uranus. I mean, not mine, yours. Right? Boom. But you see here, Venus trine Uranus. And then on the 9th, here we are. We've got a new moon. It's a new moon record. And it's in Aquarius. And it's also square Uranus. A Uranian, Aquarian new moon. And then February the 12th, you see Mars enters Aquarius and also conjoins Pluto. Well, and then look at my mama Venus. She's just on the edge, isn't she? She's on the edge of dipping in. And boom, right? On February the 16th, she enters Aquarius to conjoin Pluto. And then, just a few days later, on the 22nd of February, you see she conjoins Mars, right? And then she overtakes him and enters what's called Malefic Enclosure. She's wedged between two malefics here, Saturn and Mars, you see? And then February the 23rd, the very next day, Mercury enters Pisces, right? And then the next day we have a full moon. Yes? Full moon in Virgo. And then the next day, geez Louise, one day after another. Goodness. The next day, the 25th, Venus in Aquarius makes a square to Jupiter in Taurus. And then one last boom. Here we go. On the 28th, Mercury conjoins the Sun and Saturn in Pisces. Holy cow, that's a lot of stuff. Well, what do these transits mean for us? We're going to talk a little bit about that, what they entail in general. And then the next video is going to have your horoscopes with some specific interpretations for your rising sign. Well, anyway, first of all, let's talk about Mercury, right? Mercury's moving from one Saturn-ruled sign, Capricorn, to another, Aquarius, right? But in Capricorn, he's more introspective, reflective, and focused perhaps on the past and what is correct or right. While in Aquarius, he's constantly texting, isn't he? He's posting, yes? He's trying to get you into his Discord server so he can tell you all kinds of stuff. You see, he's forward-thinking in Aquarius and expressive of novel ideas. In Capricorn, Mercury's more concerned with how things should be. But in Aquarius, he's more concerned with how things could be. That is, the possibilities. You see, people with natal Mercury in Aquarius tend to acutely recognize patterns. I sort of think of the character Cypher from The Matrix, right? And remember all the little green letters and numbers are scrolling down and he's all like, ooh, blonde, ooh, redhead. Yep. I mean, if I was in The Matrix, that's what I'd be doing. So. But Mercury rules what? Communication, news, messages, and social media. So in Capricorn, we tend to see news that reflects the conventional wisdom. While in Aquarius, we see current events that challenge it, indicating more uncertainty, yes? This is right around the time when this happens, around the time the South Carolina Democratic primary election happens. So we're probably going to see some protest votes, right? People writing in candidates and things like that. And of course, people in both parties are very unhappy with their choices in general, right? Except for the rabid bunch. And we're going to see, I think, Democrats become more vocal in their opposition to the destruction happening in Gaza right now. I predict that the mainstream media will also push back more and more on this topic. Gaza will become a bigger and bigger problem for Joe Biden. And I think we'll see his administration start backpedaling on this issue. So that's my prediction. Well, like I said, a few days later on the 7th, right? Venus in Capricorn makes a trine to Uranus in Taurus. Now, Venus is what? Our sense of aesthetic, love, relationships, and our general social nature. While Uranus rules curveballs, right? Unexpected disasters, the strange and unusual, the bizarre. And he undermines authority, doesn't he? Well, when these two are in hard aspect, I think of wardrobe malfunctions. But with the trine, I think more of surprise sexual encounters. Yeah. At least for me. Yeah. For the rest of you, it may be more social, you know? Like perhaps you meet a new friend who shares your tastes or interests. Perhaps a new shopping partner. That's very Venusian. Yeah. I need someone to go makeup shopping with me. You know. Well, my daughter does, and that's great. So. Venus usually indicates a female or feminine influence. So, you know. You will also likely find yourself attracted to things you don't usually like or try. You might find yourself being a bit more adventurous. You know, not just with playing, but I mean also with cuisine, you know, with clothes or people, you know. You might want to have that eyeshadow palette that you would only see on RuPaul's Drag Race, you know. I mean, I wear the same stuff every day. I don't like crazy makeup, but, you know. You might like it while Venus is trine Uranus. So either way, try and enjoy this brief transit because it could bring in a little more spice, right, to your life. Fun things. Anyway, then on February the 9th, we have the new moon in Aquarius. Square Uranus and Taurus, right? And remember that new moons are what? They're new beginnings, right? It's sort of the beginning of a new monthly lunar cycle and therefore indicate new beginnings. They're a time to set your intentions for the subsequent lunar month. Now, we know there are months, calendar months, that don't have a new moon or a full moon sometimes. We're talking about the lunar cycle, so don't get all wacky with me like, this month didn't have a full moon. I don't care. I'm talking about in general, so shut up. Anyway, so being square Uranus turns the expectations on their head. On with their heads. On with the... Anyway, sorry. So be prepared for reversals of your intentions, right? You could find yourself completely changing your goals in mid-backstroke, right? I better be doing the breaststroke instead. It's my favorite stroke, you know. Or you could see your efforts totally backfire. But the big thing here is to be flexible and let go when you see yourself fighting the universe. One of my mentors always said, when you fight the universe, you always lose. Uranus is also telling you not to get too attached to results. And that setbacks like this could be more creative because it redirects your attention and your focus. Well, and then Mars enters Aquarius, doesn't he? On February the 12th, and almost immediately conjoins Pluto. Now, when Mars was in the previous sign of Capricorn, that's his exaltation, he's focused and determined to get things done. He doesn't avoid efforts, tasks, or challenges. Take on me. Take on me, take me on. You know, anyway, Mars takes things on, you know. So anyway, I think of Mars in Capricorn as like diligently sharpening a knife, right? Or sharpening your knives. While Mars in Aquarius likes to dance with those knives, right? Especially on social media. And especially with Pluto there, right? I mean, my mama Brittany Shears, she's got Aquarius moon, so she would know. I love Brittany. And I love watching her dance with knives. I think it's really cool. I think it's hot. I always, you know, I worked in kitchens for years. I'm interested in knife safety, you know, so. Anyway, Mars in Aquarius is what? Very idealistic and even dogmatic. Very stubborn about what he believes. He's also often a rebel. I think of activist types like Jane Fonda or whistleblowers like Julian Assange, who also has Mars in Aquarius. When Mars enters Aquarius, though, we also see people doing what? Openly defying authority. Not always in a good way. But when Mars is conjunct Pluto, I also think of violent confrontations. I'm not hoping for it. I don't even agree with it, but it is something we see. Now, remember that it's, you know, it's oftentimes accompanied by violent storms too. Sometimes volcanic eruptions. Or I've also seen active shooter incidents with this transit. So just keep your wits about you. And remember, it's good to stand up for yourself, of course. But it's also easy to cross the line, right? And become a bully yourself. So it's all a matter of intention and motive. If your motive is, you know, to help in general, hopefully you'll be less of a bully. Then on the 16th, my mama Venus will enter Aquarius and also conjoin Pluto, right? Just like Hades and Persephone, our favorite little story, which I've told countless times, so I won't tell it here. Anyway, you see, Venus in Capricorn is very practical, isn't she? Sometimes even austere, serious melancholy with a dark aesthetic, you know? For those of you who know a little bit about art, I think of the Bauhaus women of the 1930s Weimar Germany, right? Or 1920s rather. You know, they all wore black. And they all had very straight faces, you know. And they did very angular art. It's very Capricornian, very Saturnian. But Venus in Aquarius, the other Saturn-ruled sign, still has that dark Saturnian aesthetic, but now she's putting on the spiked bracelets and the spiked belt and the torn fishnets and all that fun stuff, right? So that she can go party at the goth club. I think of Venus in Capricorn as vanilla, right? If you know what that means. But in Aquarius, she's more like Skittles. Taste the rainbow. You know. She's hot. But she can also be an ice queen. I mean, I've been in relationships with a few Aqua Venuses, you know. They fall in love with me, especially when it's conjunct my ascendant, you know. But then they eventually hate my guts. Sort of a thing. Aqua Venus can also be so affectionate and loving, you know. So affectionate and loving from 6 feet away, right? They were social distancing before it was even a thing. Well, they're also very loyal partners. In fact, Aqua Venus is so loyal, even when they don't want to live anywhere near you. You know, they really like their space, don't they? But seriously, this is a time to challenge our ideas of what's beautiful, pleasurable, and the type of people we usually associate with. When she conjoins Pluto, though, we do see issues around sexual violence and abuse. So, now I did a whole video tracking Venus-Pluto aspects throughout the whole Jeffrey Epstein timeline of events, the whole Epstein saga, if you will. So go back and check out that video for more information on Pluto conjunct Venus in particular. And please remember with this transit, consent is the most important thing. Well, anyway, on February the 22nd, Venus will conjoin Mars, right? Which is hot and sexy, Venus and Mars, isn't it? Right? But it also represents the close of a big cycle. You see, Venus has been chasing Mars ever since her retrograde in Leo. You know, remember that was over the summer. That was when the Barbie movie came out. Yeah. And it's when I started dating again. Dating, right? Dating. I describe it as Mars sort of crashing through signs, like the Kool-Aid guy crashing through walls, you know, just flinging drywall everywhere. And then Venus would have to come up behind him and clean everything up and smooth over the conflicts he created, right? But now Venus is overtaking Mars. It's like she's climbing on top of him, yeah. But when she finishes, she's moving on. It's just a couple of minutes, you know. She's like, I'm done. But Mars doesn't like being blown off, does he? So he's going to be shooting angry glances, among other things, at her and convincing his unholy homie Saturn to do the same thing. And this is called Malefic Enclosure, right? Which is when a planet is stuck between the two malefics, right? Which are Mars and Saturn. And it means that a planet is unable to express itself or its usual qualities properly. So my mama Venus will want to get down, but it's like she's on her cycle, you know, and she feels uncomfortable about it. But, you know, Mars rules the blood, doesn't he? Anyway, Venus will be enclosed until late March, when she's finally able to slip past Saturn and enjoy her exaltation in Pisces. So if you're not feeling particularly social during that time, don't worry and don't force it. Find things that you enjoy doing by yourself or just with a few people. Or just be okay with being awkward at parties, right? Or gatherings in general. I know that's been a big lesson for me. I'm just awkward. I'm like, hi, I'm awkward. What's your name? That's such a dad joke. It's awful. Anyway. Well, the very next day, on February the 23rd, Mercury enters his sign of both fall and detriment. Yes, I'm talking about Pisces. Pisces. More like crises. Am I right? You know. I always say Mercury in Pisces is sort of like putting Vaseline on the lens of a video camera. It's like those, soap operas, right? Telenovelas, where everything looked kind of blurry. Anyway. When I think of Mercury in Pisces, I think of those old magic eye posters from the 90s. Remember those where it looked like a bunch of static, right? But if you stared at it long enough, an image came out, right? Sort of like Pisces. If they sit and just stare at the sky long enough, like, oh, that's what it was, Mercury in Pisces is sort of like French Impressionism, You can see a picture from far away. But as you get closer and closer, you see it's just a bunch of nasty paint blotches, right? I stole that joke from Clueless. Right? She's a total Monet. I love that movie. Cher, Alicia Silverstone in that movie is like my soul, Anyway. That's not really a fair assessment. My little brother has Mercury in Pisces, and he's a literal genius. But he's not always the best at expressing his thoughts. Those deep, deep thoughts. Anyway, the point here is that communications will get muddy and unclear. We'll also see news media getting stories wrong or have to make retractions. This is right around the time of the South Carolina Republican primary. So I predict we're going to see some misinformation or get some confusing results or delayed results coming out of it. So just something to be aware of. Well, then, literally the next day again, Jiminy Christmas, we had the full moon in Virgo on the 24th. And remember that full moons are a culminating time where we reap the rewards or consequences of our previous efforts, right? Of the past lunar cycle. And to see what area of life is highlighted by the full moon, you need to look at what whole sign house Virgo is for you. So that will indicate where things are sort of coming to a close for you. For me, I'm Aquarius rising, so it's the 8th house. Wonderful. Taxes. Taxes. It's not, paying them sucks, but it's more like all the stuff, like having to, I hate paperwork. I just really hate paperwork. I really do, which is not good for a small business owner. I'm telling you. Anyway, again, the next day, right? Just one transit after another. Like, bum, 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 bum. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. So the 25th, Venus in Aquarius will form a square to Jupiter in Taurus. Now remember, right? She's caught up in Malefic Enclosure. So it's like she's all tied up and not in a fun way. Not in a shibari way. Remember, Jupiter's the proverbial party animal, though, and Venus is what? Pleasure. So when these two meet in a square, we have the tendency to go to excess with things. Like food, alcohol, substances. Or if you're like me, physical intimacy. Anyway, Amy Schumer has this natal aspect, so, kind of interesting. And she's always talking about being promiscuous. Now, Venus may be tied up, but Mars is joining the square too, in the superior position, right? So he's going to be like the little devil on the shoulders of both Venus and Jupiter, egging them on to push the envelope to nearly self-destructive limits. So please do your best to anticipate that YOLO attitude, right? And because you might regret it later. Sort of plan for that. Well, and then finally, Mercury, the Sun, and Saturn all join in a conjunction in Pisces at the end of the month. This is the 28th. Mercury's what? Messages, as we said. The Sun is judgment and authority. And Saturn is delays and restrictions and rules, right? Now, we often see Sun-Saturn aspects correlate with big court decisions, especially from the U.S. Supreme Court, right? The Sun can join Saturn during the deliberation for the Dobbs decision, which effectively overturned Roe v. Wade, which represented abortion rights and reproductive rights in the United States for women. The Sun was also conjoined Saturn when former movie producer and incredible scumbag Harvey Weinstein was sentenced to 16 years in prison for multiple counts of the R word. Right? Well, this time around, we have a very big Supreme Court case that you've likely never heard of, right? Now, the court is looking to repeal what is called the Chevron deference doctrine, which basically says that the courts, including the Supreme Court, should defer to the subject matter experts, right? The heads of federal agencies, or people who work for federal agencies, when it comes to interpreting ambiguous statutes, right? Like things to do with the environment. Well, after 40 years of being relatively sane, the Supreme Court justices want to go absolutely bat-shizzle. And, in their infinite wisdom, stop deferring to the experts and make up their own stupid interpretations of stuff they have no clue about. It's like me, right? Me being an astrologer. It's my field of expertise. I love to sing, though, too. But I don't go around introducing myself as singer girl, because that's not my specialty. Anyway, so justices shouldn't pretend to be experts in anything else besides case law. Just smile and shut up. Even their decisions are sort of suspect. Now, this could be a very influential decision, and it will most likely be overturned. And it will lead to courts making decisions about your medical care, your body, your environment, your planet. Anyway. Yo, homies, you ain't doctors nor climate scientists. In your personal life, though, you may have a sense of superiority and entitlement that sort of comes up, right? The Sun sure thinks highly of himself. And Mercury's like, let's talk about it. And Saturn's like, yeah. Makes us feel certain. You see, messages will also be delayed and misunderstood with Saturn here with Mercury. You'll have a tendency to probably want to control other people or situations. You'll have to make extra effort than usual to be clear and timely with your communications as well. So please expect that and prepare for it. Well, anyway, I hope this all was useful. Remember, I do your horoscopes in the next video, okay? So stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, comment, and click the bell, okay? Check out my other videos because there's loads of educational content, and I'm very cute and fun. Yeah? Please also consider giving to my Patreon to help me continue making such lovely content, right? I'm also starting up YouTube memberships with some dope-ass perks. Right? Like detailed personalized horoscopes and priority readings for lives, right? So check it out. We just started it. Also, I do the best readings. It's science, right? It's just the way it is. You can book by visiting my website, frankielynch.com, or all my contact information is below, along with my Patreon. So please, 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 please consider me. Won't you see about me? Anyway, most importantly, though, I love you. You're beautiful. And have a spectacular, whatever it is you're having.